Good morning and welcome to Hope, Faith, and Joy Daily Devotion with me, Pastor Amanda. It is Monday morning and we are taking a look at Exodus chapter 24. So let's get started for this morning. So we have this covenant that is being set up with God, or sometimes called Yahweh, or sometimes called the Lord. And so we have this mountain scene because that's where they are. And the first thing that happens is that Moses is invited to come up to the mountain along with Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 other elders of the Israelite people. And so it marks in here that normally Moses does this alone, but it's kind of time for more people to start taking responsibility for the connection, the covenant, the responsibilities of being the people of God. And so they say they all can come up together, and but they had to be invited to do this. And I think it's interesting to note too that this is kind of, Moses is still their primary leader. Like, Moses still has that, but there's a sense that more of us are invested in this covenant. And so then what we have is kind of this creating the covenant not only with just the leaders, but then also with the full community of the Israelite people. And so what we have here is kind of this little demonstration of what connects the whole Israelite people to God. And the first thing that happens is that Moses creates an altar. And so this altar is created. He then reads the covenant and the ordinances to the people. The people respond with, "Yes, we will obey the Lord." And then what we have is this blood offering that is poured out upon the altar. And so there's some sacrifices. It's called the sacrifice of well-being that is made. And with this, they are now covenanted together through these three ritual actions. And what we kind of need to kind of start to, what we pay attention as Christians is kind of the similarity about how Jesus is this special leader of us that has this extra connection with God. But then Jesus invites the rest of us to be part of this relationship with God. We have to have some investment in it. And then we think about Jesus is called the last blood sacrifice. And that's really important to note because there's needs to be no more sacrifices. Like, once you come to Jesus, your covenant is made, and there has to be no more bloodshed. There needs to be none of that. And so this is kind of, we have this parallel that we're paying attention to that's coming out of the text here. So Jesus is like Moses in that he has this particular special relationship with God. And then through following Jesus's teachings, we say, yes, we will obey. And then he himself actually is the last blood sacrifice that is needed. And so kind of interesting to pay attention to if you hadn't noticed that before. So then we have this again. So Moses and the elders are invited up to the top of the mountain. And I love this part. What do they do when they get up there to be with God? They eat and drink. I think they were good Methodists way back then. We love to have a fellowship meal. But I think it also goes to show how important the fellowshipping that happens around a table is to a community life and being part of a community of faith. You need these times of gathering that is a time of sharing. And so I think it's neat. They got to eat and drink with God. And so during this, We find out, though, that then Moses is invited to kind of another step further than the rest of the elders. So they get to get so close, they get to see so much. But then Moses is then invited to the next level of communication with God. Um, and so what we find here is some interesting things is that there's this cloud cover that comes on top of the mountain. So we have this mystery and awe about God, this sense of God's so holy that we can't really see God. And so it says, the glory of the Lord settled on Mount Sinai, and a cloud covered it for 6 days. And on the seventh day, God called Moses out of the cloud. So these numbers should kind of click, 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 click. What's going on there? So we have creation. We have the sense of connecting God back to creation, 6 days, and then the seventh day. And so there is a sense of God's, full creator here. And we have that. And then it says, now the appearance of the Lord was like devouring fire on top of the mountain in the sight of the people of Israel. So this devouring fire is that same fire that Moses encountered when he was first called into being the leader of the people. And then we find out that while he was on the mountain, he stayed on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. Click, 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 click. Noah and the ark. And so God's power of destruction and creation. So we have all this kind of coming to a culmination here. And just this sense of when we encounter God, we're going to have to be changed. Because if you think about this, creation, the world had to change when it encountered God. Noah, the whole world changed when it encountered God. When you come to God, you're going to encounter change, or you're denying God, because that's what happens. That's awesome. And so we just kind of see this progress right now of how awesome God is, and the forming of this covenant with the people of Israel to be the faithful followers. So yeah, it's kind of this really high point in it. We'll kind of see what happens on the other end as we go through the week, but it is exciting to see the strength and power that comes into having a relationship with God, and realizing, there are people who have different levels of that relationship. And so to think about that, where is your relationship with God? Maybe in comparison. Are you midway up the mountain? Are you at the top of the mountain? Are you kind of hanging out by the seashore at the other side of the mountain? So, but it gives us an opportunity to reflect upon our personal covenant that we have with God. So thanks for joining me today with Hope, Faith, and Joy Daily Devotion, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care.